The rain had been falling steadily all evening, the rhythmic patter against the window pane lulling me into a drowsy complacency. I sat alone at the bus stop, shivering beneath the flickering yellow streetlight. The digital clock above the ticket booth blinked 11:45 p.m., and I couldn't help but wonder if I had made a grave mistake by choosing to take this late-night bus. My destination was miles away, and the darkness outside seemed to deepen with each passing minute. The bus arrived with a hiss of hydraulic brakes and a groan from the engine. Its headlights pierced the rainy night like beacons of salvation. I climbed aboard and paid my fare, glancing at the driver who simply nodded in acknowledgement. The bus was eerily empty save for one other passenger huddled in the back, their face obscured by a hood. Settling into a worn-out seat near the front, I gazed out at the deserted streets. The city had never felt so desolate, the neon signs of once bustling shops reduced to mere reflections in the wet asphalt. As the bus pulled away from the curb, a sense of unease began to gnaw at me. The driver's monotone announcements about upcoming stops barely registered in my mind as I slipped into a half-conscious state, the engine's hum and the patter of raindrops forming a strange lullaby. The minutes melted into hours, and I drifted in and out of sleep, my dreams blurred by the darkness outside. It was sometime around 2:00 am when I awoke with a start, my heart pounding as if I had been jolted from a nightmare. I rubbed my eyes and glanced around the bus, realizing with a jolt that the hooded passenger in the back had vanished. The seat was empty, the hood draped over it as if someone had never been there. A shiver ran down my spine as I looked toward the driver. His face was obscured by the shadows cast by the dimly lit cabin, but his posture seemed rigid and tense. I tried to shake off the eerie feeling that had settled over me and returned my gaze to the window. The rain had intensified, drumming against the glass with newfound fury. The outside world had become a distorted, twisted reflection, and I couldn't see anything beyond the sheets of water. Panic welled up inside me as I realized that I couldn't recognize the surroundings at all. The landmarks I should have passed were conspicuously absent, and the bus showed no signs of slowing down. "Excuse me," I called out to the driver, my voice trembling. "I think we missed my stop." There was no response. I tried again, my voice growing more desperate. "Hey driver, can you hear me?" Still there was nothing but silence from the front of the bus. Panic clawed at my throat, threatening to suffocate me. I stumbled to my feet and made my way toward the driver, my footsteps echoing loudly in the empty bus. As I reached the front, I noticed something strange. The driver's hands were firmly gripping the wheel, but there was no one in the driver's seat. I gasped and stumbled back, my mind unable to comprehend what I was seeing. The bus was moving on its own, navigating the dark, unfamiliar streets with an eerie, supernatural precision. The rain continued to pour, and the windows seemed to warp and distort as if they were trying to reveal something from the other side. I strained to see through the distorted glass, and that's when I saw them, shadowy figures, indistinct and fleeting, dancing in the rain-slicked streets. They moved with unnatural grace, their movements synchronized in a hauntingly beautiful ballet. My breath caught in my throat as one of the figures turned and locked eyes with me, even though its face was nothing more than a shifting mass of shadows. I stumbled back, falling into one of the seats. The figures outside began to converge on the bus, their ghostly forms pressing against the windows, their hollow, mournful cries filling the cabin. The bus picked up speed, hurtling through the dark streets, and I felt like a helpless passenger on a journey to an unknown destination. The figures outside grew more numerous, their forms becoming more defined and terrifying. Some of them had elongated skeletal limbs, while others had grotesque, contorted faces that contorted and twisted in agony. I frantically searched for an emergency exit, my heart pounding with dread. There was no escape. The figures were closing in, their wailing voices growing louder, and the bus seemed to accelerate even further, hurtling toward some unimaginable abyss. Desperate, I turned to the empty driver's seat and shouted, "Stop! Please! Just stop!" To my astonishment, the bus suddenly stopped, throwing me forward in my seat. The figures outside recoiled, their mournful cries replaced by an eerie silence. I sat there, trembling, as the bus remained motionless in the dark, rain-soaked street. Then, with a gut-wrenching jolt, the world outside the bus began to crumble. the figures dissipating into nothingness. The rain stopped, the distorted windows returned to normal, and the cityscape re-emerged, though still unrecognizable. I stumbled off the bus, my legs unsteady, and watched as it vanished into the night, leaving me alone on that desolate street. I never learned who or what had driven that bus or where it had taken me that night. But I knew one thing for certain. I had experienced something supernatural and unexplainable, something that would haunt my dreams for the rest of my life.